Welcome back to another outdoor switch to Linux, and hopefully we can hear me all right. I had to put on my wind attenuator microphone because, yeah, it's windy out here in the desert. But I want to talk, just muse briefly about privacy and Linux apps, and there were a number of things that got me thinking about this recently. One of those was I was reading the release announcement of the latest elementary, and what they did is they took the location sublayer out of the app permissions where it was, and they put it under their portals, which in theory is going to make it a little bit better for granular control of location permissions. And I'm going to say allegedly. Effectively, this is the same thing GNOME has done. Now, I've not seen how Elementary is doing it yet. I will download that whenever I get back to the grid and can download a lot more Linux distributions and play around with it. But this got me thinking, how well does this location work with GNOME? Because this is really what it's modeled after. And so I actually had a Fedora set up inside of my VirtualBox. So I pulled that up, and then I just did some probing with the application with Firefox, just asking Firefox various questions. Where am I? I pulled up the maps tool. Now, Firefox does not exist in the location privacy for the app controls inside of GNOME, nor does the GNOME map program, both of which can access my location based on IP address. And if I had it in a computer that had a GPS module, my guess is, because GNOME is up to date, and since the Linux kernel does have GPS modulation built into it, my guess is at least the apps application would give me the precise location based on that. Now, Firefox, we have the ability to turn all that off. And this is what my hardening guide does. If you do not need location services in your web browser, you can turn all that stuff off. And that's exactly what I do. In fact, I went to the same site on my main production computer, and lo and behold, it can't figure out where I am, because I have all that stuff turned off on the about config file. The Maps application doesn't seem to have any config file I could find that can turn on or turn off. Maybe it does. I cannot say I dug deep into it to figure it all out. So I got to thinking about this, and also rattling around in my head a video I saw a couple years ago now. This is by the Hated One, so I'm not sure where the video is or how long ago he did that video. But what he did is he had a video that I kind of disagreed with a little bit, because he made the argument that cell phones were far more private than computers, because they have this granular privacy location tool on the phone. The problem we have is, does the app respect that, or can it break out from it? Because in my testing, because I'm using a cellular internet platform, Firefox and the map application both point to me being in the same location, and that is Boise, Idaho. I'm not in Idaho. I'm certainly not in Boise, Idaho. And so overall, I would disagree on the basis that even the location services isn't particularly accurate until, and this is the warning for you, until you get a computer that starts having more GPS modules built into the computers. Now, there are computers on the market that are getting these, but a lot of your location on computer systems are all based on you doing IP-based location services. Firefox, you can turn it off. Maps, you apparently cannot. And neither of those applications appear inside of the privacy and locations settings inside of the GNOME settings. So it makes me wonder, with elementary moving these around and making a big deal about it, does it actually matter? Are all of these apps respecting that? If I were to install Firefox on my system, is Firefox going to be looking in that portal to determine the location, or is it going to use its other sources? Now, does Firefox behave the same on the phone or not? I don't know. I didn't check that. I probably should. But the point being, applications right now, many more of them are trying to get location services, and as long as we have something like a GPS module, we will have a greater risk of an application being able to access our location whether or not we want them to. That being said, my experience thus far looking around is that on the computer, we actually have we have a little bit of control on the software level, but the location services are wildly inaccurate because I'm not in Idaho and I'm not in Boise. Now, if you have a small local community ISP, any application that would want to can easily get your city. Is that bad? Is that good? Is that enough anonymity? Unless you live in a city the size of the one right over here, that's probably not necessarily going to end it. That city with 500 people or so in it, yeah, you might be easier to spot and identify. The overall principle is, though, we have to be cognizant of these, and this starts to become one of those things you might need to look for when you're buying a computer. Do I have a GPS module in this system? And if that GPS module is there, what and how can gain access to it? Now, if elementary is correct, and they have a portal that can collect all of the location services and minimize that, everything to that, and that gives you the full granular control, and I can go into there and I can say, okay, the computer, whether it be from a GPS or an IP address or some other means, can identify your location, all right? And they can turn on or turn off any and every app. That is an amazing thing that they have accomplished doing. But I have a doubt that they can do that because Firefox can still break out. Now, going back to the original video from the hated one, is he correct that that notification system, the sublayer controlling the location services, does that truly prevent every app, including Firefox, from gaining my location or not? These are things we need to think about, and I would like to explore a little bit further going on. So I was just thinking about this over the last few hours. I did some probing and some poking around, and what I did find disturbing is that the GNOME Maps tool, which comes with Fedora, whether or not you have location services turned on, knows where you are, and you cannot turn that off, which is interesting. Firefox can still determine your location. You can't turn that off unless you go into the Firefox configuration and turn it off, which is something you can do, and I did, and when I do that, it successfully cannot find my location. So that's good. The question now turns to the apps. Can the apps figure out where we are, whether or not we have location turned on, or can they not? This is something that bears with it another question. So are the phones more private as far as location, or are computers? I am going to wager that computers are more private so long as they do not have a GPS module, because the best they can do is your IP address, and you can do fun things by confusing the system as to what your IP address really is. I'm thinking of things like Tor, I'm thinking of things like VPNs and other stuff like that. So that's kind of my outside in the desert ramblings. Let me know your thoughts on this. if you have anything else to add or anything else I should look into as I dig down to that. And despite my general disdain of elementary OS, I will have a look at the new version when I make it back to the grid. So with that though, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.